How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to my F2 2020 Championship for round 8 at the Hungarian Grand Prix at the circuit that's often referred to as Monaco without the barriers. And for the first round in a while, luckily there's not going to be any rain for any part of this weekend. So qualifying started, I'll let you look at the lap. So as we come up to the final turn, for most of the lap it was looking pretty good. We were leading at one stage, but coming down towards the line now, we're going to come across and start the feature race from P12. So Dan Tickton takes the 4 points for pole position, just edging out Jehan Daruvla with Sato in P3, followed by a high-tech in fourth with Mick Schumacher, Matsushita, Djokovic, Lundgaard, Armstrong and Galil round out the top 10.
We're just 18 kilometres from the city of Budapest here in Hungary, where today's Formula 2 race is about to start. Hold on to your hats, this should be something special. The Hungaroring is located 12 miles northeast of the capital, Budapest. It's 2.7 miles long, featuring 14 corners, and it's got a reputation for making overtaking difficult. Nevertheless, there's a history of some truly exceptional races here. Let's hope that our Formula 2 drivers can serve up some more of that today.
So as we go to the lights ahead of the feature race from P12, starting on the medium, so doing the alternate strategy, the lights go out, and considering we're starting on the harder tyre, we don't get too bad of a start. We do get passed by Schwartzman and Delatraz. As into turn 1 we go to the left hand side, try to get the outside line for turn 1, but brake a bit too late and hit the back of Delatraz. Luckily don't get any damage from that. We're on the exit of turn 1, try to accelerate on the corner a bit and get a bit of a snap, but we're down to P15 momentarily. But down into turn 2, the inside line, we get past Nissany, and through turn 3, trying to get a good run, which we do, and we're gaining on Delatraz ahead. But into turn 4, it'd be a bit risky to make a move here, as once again we get caught out by how early the Shrews is braking and make even more contact. Once again, lucky don't get any damage there. As around turn 5, go a bit wide, so can't really make a move into the 6-7 chicane. Have a bit of a look down the inside of Delatraz, but can't do anything there. As we head into the middle sector now, it's pretty much single file through here. Through turn 8 and turn 9 we're staying very close to Delatraz, and through turn 10 we take a wide line, and Delatraz seems to get a bit compromised by Galil ahead, so we sweep around the outside of him and have the inside for turn 11 as we're side by side down towards turn 12. But we brake later and once again have the inside for turn 12 and get the move done, squeezing them out a bit on the exit, and that brings us up into P13. So lost one position on the opening lap there, as onto lap 2 now. Into turn 2 we brake very late, have a bit of a lock up and nearly hit the back of Galil, but through turn 3 we get a much better exit, and into turn 4 once again don't really want to make a move there, a bit risky, and we can't make up any position on the damaged driver ahead. But now on to the end of lap 2, we're still behind Galil, but going around the last turn we slightly touched the inside curb, and upsets the balance of the car, and we get a poor exit onto the pit straight, and that allows Delachaz to get a run on us into turn 1, go a bit deep to make sure to leave him room on the inside. As on the exit we're side by side, bump wheels a small bit, and down into turn 2 we have the inside, go a bit wide with a lock up, and we manage to keep the position on the Shrews driver. As now heading on to the end of lap 4, we're going to say a good lap time, but Reno Sato retires from the race and the safety car is called out, and this is terrible for me because everyone else is on the soft tyre and will be able to pit now under the safety car and get a free pit stop onto the mediums, making their mandatory pit stop, whereas I'll have to stay out because the softs won't last 13-14 laps to the end of the race. But going on to the safety car restart now, the end of lap 7, I'm surprised that there was a few soft runners that didn't pit, probably because their teammate pit, but still surprised they didn't go in on the lap after that. But starting now, want to stay close to the Glale and try and overtake him as quick as I can so I can try and make a bit of a gap to those who have already pit. So down towards turn 2 now, we not as close as I would have liked to have been. Through turn 2, go a bit deep, which seems to be a bit of an issue I was having through this race. Through turn 3, get a much better run, and on the run up the hill into turn 4, I hadn't gone for this move before because I thought it was a bit risky, but desperate times call for desperate measures, and I go up the inside of Galale and provisionally take the lead of the race. And even though I was expecting Galale to pit at the end of this lap, which he does as we go around the final turn on that lap now, you can see that he has pit, but I did manage to pull out about a second and a half on Galale, so that was a second and a half I wouldn't have been able to make up, or time I would have lost if I'd stayed behind him on that lap. And now we're just over 5 seconds ahead of the cars behind who have already pit. As on to the end of lap 12 now, make a very late call to come into the pits. So going to obviously give up the lead of the race now, go on to the soft tyres for the last 7 laps, and really just want to see where I'm going to come out and if I can make up maybe 1 or 2 more positions on the faster tyre. As we exit the pit, we're in P10 as Galale is coming fastly up behind us, but we get to turn 1 before the damaged driver and remain in P10, and we're over 17 seconds behind Armstrong ahead. So I think this might be a bit too much of a gap to try and make up in the remaining laps of this race. As onto the start of lap 15, set provisional fastest lap of the race, as we've already closed in 6 seconds to Armstrong ahead. But on to the end of the race now, around the last turn on the last lap, we managed to get within 8 seconds of Armstrong. We did lose the fastest lap to Aiken, I think it was. We come home to take 1 point in P10.
Where they all want to be. Here come the top 3 then, out onto the podium after a fascinating race.
So one of the high-techs wins the race, with Jehan Ruvla getting another podium in this championship, and Pedro Pique rounding out the top 3, ahead of Christian Lungard, Dan Tickton, Drogovic, Schwartzman, Matsushita in 8th getting a reverse grid pole, followed by Armstrong and myself, with me also getting the 2 points for fastest lap, having the fastest lap in the top 10 drivers. As we go to the lights now for the sprint race, the lights go out and get a pretty okay start, lose a bit of time in the second phase of the acceleration, drop down 2 positions initially to Galale and Delachaz, but into turn 1 have the inside line, and on the exit we managed to get back into our starting position of P10, and on the run down into turn 2 we're not going to be able to challenge any of the cars ahead, but luckily aren't being challenged from behind either, as through turn 3, like in the feature race, we get a good run, and on the run up the hill to turn 4 we decide to make the move down the inside like we did on Galale in the feature race, and move up into P9 on the opening lap. So far so good, making up one position, but you might be able to notice on the Delta up in the top left that there's a few cars who decide to start on the soft tyre. So I know already that we're going to make up a few positions with those having to make at least one pit stop in this race, because the softs can't do the full 14 laps. And on to the end of lap 5 now. You can see on the mini-map that the first of those drivers have started pit with, I think it was Armstrong and Matsushita, who was leading the race, making their pit stop. And we're up into P7. As on the very next lap, 4 more cars have made their pit stop. So now being promoted into a podium position without having to make hardly any overtakes. And I was very surprised by how many drivers decide to do the soft strategy in the feature race. But I have to admit, this race was pretty boring, and skipping all the way to the end of lap 11 now. This was the first lap where I've managed to be able to get into the DRS of PK ahead. Myself, PK and Daruvla seem to be very similar pace, where they'd pull away and then they'd drop back, so the gap always seemed to stay around the same. We saw there through turn 1 make a bit of a mistake, and the time we made up in the last few laps has all but been dissipated. As on to the last lap now, you can see we've all sort of began to bunch up a bit. I think PK was the fastest out of the 3 of us, but he's been held up by Daruvla. And into turn 4 you can see how close they are, and now I'm just gaining on them, and I'm right on the back of PK now, as through turn 5 go a bit wide, which really wasn't ideal, as meant I couldn't try and have a move into the chicane. But into the last sector now, have a small look about thinking going down the inside of PK, but didn't want to risk it there and throw away a podium position and possibly end up with nothing in this race, especially after not scoring too much in the feature race. But through the last turn, heading towards the line, Daruvla is going to take the victory and a double podium this weekend, so a great result for him. And I come across the line to claim P3.
Yes, that's a podium. Excellent drive. The team have worked especially hard this weekend, and this...
The podium, and I can see the Carlin team underneath our commentary box going crazy as their driver walks out. It was a great win, and it means a great deal to this team.
So Daruvla takes the victory, as I said, with PK in second and himself rounding out the podium from P10 on the grid. High Tech finishes behind me with Galil in 5th, Schumacher behind him, followed by Sato and Matsushita, who was leading that race, only coming home to claim 1 point in P8, with Schwartzman, who finished in 9th, also claiming 2 points for the fastest lap. And in the weekend results, Daruvla gets 2nd ahead of PK, himself in 5th with 13 points, but crucially outscored championship rival Artem Markelov and extend our lead, with Daruvla actually catching up on Markelov, so it could be a 3-way battle for this championship, as Virtuosi also remain top of the team's championship. But that's all for now. Until the next one, thanks for watching, see you then.